Okay, welcome back everyone. Feature Bootcamp, back at it with more screenwriting for features. So we're going to go from idea to finished draft of your brand new feature in this course, meaning that today, in this week, we're going to try to get that logline finalized and nailed down. If you got started last week with week 0, then you already got some of that early feedback, and today is a good time to just confirm and make sure that everything is working in your logline. You're in a stage channel, so in order to talk, you do have to press that request to speak.
Can you hear me okay, Connor?
Yes, I do hear you. Sorry,
okay. I can hear you now.
Wasn't I? Okay, here I am. Welcome back, everybody. Feature Bootcamp, week 1. We're in a stage channel, so you do have to click the raise hand button in order to speak. We are on Script Camp, which has plenty of classes like this. This is our feature course, which is our main, sort of most popular class, though we have TV Bootcamp and Novel Bootcamp as well. That both run once a week and take you all the way from idea to finished draft of a brand new pilot script or complete novel. These are all part of Skill Camp, which is a nonprofit that offers free and low-cost classes to help you learn to reach skills and reach your life goals. So as for me, I've been a pro rep screenwriter since 2017. I teach the boot camps in the weekly Writers Lab. We have lots of events every week where you can get feedback and extra eyes on your script in order to know what it is that you might need to revise or work on in order to improve and keep moving forward as a writer. We have script swaps twice a week. There's one Tuesday, one Friday. Tuesday 5 p.m., Friday 11 a.m. Writer's Voice is twice a week as well. These are live readings of your novels, short stories, poems, and nonfiction. Saturday 7, so that's tomorrow night at 7 p.m. and Thursday 10 a.m. We have table reads 3 times a week, live readings of your complete feature or pilot scripts. Sunday 2 p.m., Tuesday 11 a.m. and Saturday 3 a.m. for that international time slot. You can see all of the events that we have coming up here and a bunch of weekly recurring activities like Writers Labs. If you're a member, you can attend Writers Lab, for instance, and bring up to 5 pages of whatever you're working on for feedback, or ask whatever questions and topics you want to hear about that week. We have new stuff starting up on Codecamp. As you can see, accessibility and UI design, May 23rd, 7 a.m. on Codecamp. How to code a Discord bot, May 27th in the same time slot on Codecamp. And we have our first ever classes on video editing starting this weekend, April 14th, 5 p.m. on Film Camp, video editing with Premiere and Resolve. So definitely check that one out. Lots of brand new stuff being added all the time. We have another set of brand new classes here. Romance novel. We've never done a full romance class before. This will be taught by our great event hosts, Becky and Megan. And on the 14th, so this is in 2 days, we will have writing adaptations from 12 to 2 on our novel server, which is called WordCamp. First week of TV Pilot Bootcamp starts on April 14th as well, so that's 2 events on that same day, April 14th. We also have Novel Bootcamp, the introductory session to our new Novel Bootcamp course, April 20th, and Intro to Video Editing will be April 20th. So lots of stuff going on. You can find all that and more. If you are not already subscribed, you can subscribe by going to scriptcamp.net. You can scroll down here to sign up for unlimited membership and enroll to get things like access to video library with video recordings of all of our previous classes, exclusive Discord channels, access to every class and every course and every activity on every server. That would be all included in unlimited. And if you subscribe yearly, you will be saving 40%. But we have lots of free and public events too, just like this one. The first week or 2 of every bootcamp course will always be free and open to everyone. So bring your friends, try it out, see if anyone is willing to take the plunge to write for 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 12 weeks to finish a complete draft of something brand new pilot, feature, or novel. So we're in feature right now, so we are going into week 1 here on April 12th, finalizing logline and continuing to fill out sketchbook all this week, and really filling out sketchbook for the rest of the entire process because we made our sketchbooks last week in class. Remember, this is just a blank Google document with no special formatting or anything that you really need to include beyond the basics like your title, genre, logline, and comps at the very top. And after you have those essentials, you will never really be done filling out the sketchbook. You can continue to be adding ideas and revisions and sketching out ideas for characters, scenes, locations, rules of the world, lines of dialogue, or anything else all throughout the writing process And if you were ever to reopen that script, then you might go back to the sketchbook and see all of your earlier work, all of your kind of initial inspirations and ideas and where they came from and how they originally were starting to shape up in that sketchbook document. And then I recommend breaking out from the sketchbook into new documents for things like story beats and scene cards. So when you have enough in the sketchbook that you think that you have like the vague shape of your story beats, for instance, then you can just copy that, paste it into a new document, so that way you're able to make a cleaner and more self-contained and concrete version of just that story beat document. And then same thing when you move to scene cards. When you're ready, you feel you've done enough of the sketching on the story beats, you want to copy what you have, move it into a new document, and start expanding that out into the full set of scene cards. So the idea being that we want to have these really distinct and clear sort of deliverable documents at the end of each one of these steps, making sure that we are planning out every single move of our story before we get started and get going on pages, which happens at the halfway mark of the course. You can see all the classes coming up here. We have Why This Story, which is today. Next week we have Breaking the Story on April 19th, where you will be completing your story beats that week, hopefully. Moving ahead into scene cards on week 3, which is April 26th, and then finishing scene cards by the end of that week to start your pages by May 3rd. And about there, you'll be writing 20 to 25 pages a week up until June 7th, when you'll be finishing. Or that's the milestone, at least. We hope that you'll be finishing around that time. And you'll be writing maybe 4 pages or 5 pages per weekday, even if you just write on weekdays. And the goal is to try to keep that up as of week 4, from the halfway mark of the course all the way to the end. So first half is all about planning. Second half is all about executing on that plan, using the roadmap that you've built, and doing your absolute best on the pages themselves. At that point, there are some writers that even say it's a little bit like being on stage. Like you complete the first half just to get all your lines down, and then it's sort of you getting up on stage and performing week after week to get those pages down, and you're not going back and re-editing excessively or trying to make everything perfect, but you are getting up and, performing up there to get your pages done week after week and keep your momentum high. We have a comment from Fatih723 on Twitch. Hi, Fatih. Feel free to come join us on Discord if you want to participate in the class. You can go to scriptcamp.net and join up if you want, or you can just keep watching on Twitch, Twitter, Discord, or YouTube, and many of our other streaming sites. Again, that is, that's not the right website. It's scriptcamp.net. And you can sign up here, get the link to our Discord on the top right channel, or the top right corner if you want to participate. But otherwise, we're welcome to have everybody else on our different streaming platforms and portals. We just won't always see your comment immediately. Okay, any questions before we begin? Feel free to raise a hand by clicking that hand raise icon, and you can speak aloud on the mic, or you can type your question into the chat by mousing over the classroom channel and click that small white word bubble that says Open Chat. Any questions about the overview? Okay, let's get going. So we're on week 1 today. We're going to look at covering a few of the basics that we did last week, but just sort of making sure that everyone is really solid on those and is moving towards the point where you can finalize your complete logline for your new feature. So we will recap on logline basics, and you will have a chance pretty early on, about 15 minutes, 20 minutes-ish from now, to share your logline, whether or not you got early feedback on it. But if you did, then hopefully you've been able to apply some of that and make some of those early changes in preparation for today's class. Okay, so we will go back over logline basics. You will share loglines and get feedback from me, and then the idea being that by the end of the class you will have had time to revise your logline, and you can run it by me one last time if you really want to by the end. You don't absolutely need to get the stamp of approval or whatever, but many just find it useful to get multiple checks and make sure that they're on the right track. We can go into some of the essentials on concept and just making sure that everyone's concept is working and executing their intention as best they can. High concept versus execution dependent can be a concept that we return to, but we don't have to linger too far on. We'll look a little bit more on what to include in a sketchbook and some of the things to be working on for next week. But today is really all about just finalizing that premise and that logline as best we can and starting to shape what you have into something more coherent in the coming weeks. So that's how today's going to work, and of course we'll have plenty of time for just open questions for anyone. Okay. So, before we dive in, especially if you haven't yet introduced yourself or spoken aloud in one of these classes and you'd like to be in the bootcamp, you can now feel free to raise a hand and tell us anything about yourself that you'd like. Maybe if you've written before, what your experience level is like, or what it is that you're hoping to create, or what it is that you're working on, favorite writers, or anything like that. If you are writing something brand new, or maybe doing a rewrite, you can let us know either way. Anyone want to tell us who they are, what their goals are, what they're hoping to learn? Anything like that? Luke, go ahead.
I'll jump in. Hi, I'm Luke, and I'm writing a boy band slasher script with my writing partner, and the goal is to finish draft 1, draft 0, depends on which one of us you ask, by the end of the boot camp. So,
Great, okay,
pretty
so
attainable. We've already started. We're almost finished with Act 1. Though we've had some road bumps and hiccups along the way.
Okay, well, it seems like you'll have a bit of a head start, though, if you've already gotten going, so you can take it a little slower pace if you want to. Just try to keep the momentum up until you get to the end of the draft. Any particular goals or things you wanted to focus on in this bootcamp?
For the bootcamp, I guess just sticking to the schedule and making sure we meet our time limits or deadlines or whatever.
Okay, sticking to deadlines, scheduling, organizing.
Yeah, I'm having to learn how to write with heavy noise pollution, which is a problem.
Why is that? Has your normal workspace been disturbed somehow?
Yeah, just road work, construction work. There's been internet outages. So it's been a thing. It's been fun.
Okay, great. Well, glad that you have a good sense of what you want to work on, and you may be building some new skills along the way.
Oh, definitely I'm building tons of skills, especially with structure and pre-writing and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep, every script you will just get better at every element, but good to come in with like some sort of plan as to what you're going to target and try to make that as best you can. Thank you for the introduction. Anyone else want to tell us what they're working on, what they're hoping to learn, what they're hoping to focus on in this bootcamp or this new script? Many of you have, of course, written scripts before. It's okay if you're brand new, though. We're open to all experience levels. Everyone's so shy this time. Let's read what Dakota has to say. Dakota says, excited to do something completely out there and new this time. Great. I've never written anything like this before. This is the one where I'm focusing a lot on just having fun with my voice. I've done this for 10 years but haven't felt like anything has been from me. Cool, okay, so working on developing voice and whatever it is that makes your own writing stand out. Great set of goals to have for your new script. Anyone else? I see Dan is typing. I'll let Dan finish, and I'm going to move ahead to the next line, and I'll check what his comment was in just a moment. So let's look at ground rules. These are just suggestions of what to focus on and be thinking about, and considerations when you're choosing which idea to work on. So first things first, ground rules don't really have to do with the idea, but they are just more general rules. One, get used to the idea of sharing work, even at the early stages with everybody. And two, after this course, if you're going to continue in the course past just the free week, then we do ask that you use your real name. We're not using screen names in the industry. We are using our real names, so we can change your nickname for you. For today, you can keep it whatever you want, but just if you are persisting past this week, then we will use real names. Let's try to avoid true stories, anthologies, or adaptations, although we do have an adaptation class in just 2 days. But this is going to be easiest to write something brand new or a major sort of page 1 rewrite version of something that you've been working on before. I don't really recommend, if you're newer at this, even bothering with rewrites too much. It's going to be easier, and you're going to learn more from just writing something brand new every time, rather than trying to go back and fix things that are already done. You want to probably not pick anything that's going to require extra work, research, or time to get every detail just right. Things like historicals or time travel. Just be careful with any devices that are sort of hard to keep track of on the page, like multiple copies of the same characters, intertwining timelines, or narratives like that. But just try something fun and weird. Something like Dakota said, just to sort of have fun with your voice and just try stuff. Just experiment. It's a great time to do that. Doesn't have to be a script that you get perfect or even any good at all. Really, you're trying to just keep yourself entertained and engaged for the 8 weeks that it takes to write it, and learning all you can and being willing and ready to move on from that into the next script. Okay, so if you've not already done so, let's go ahead and just make your sketchbook. You can open Google Docs and just make a new blank document. At the top, you will put the name of the movie, sketchbook, if you have a name for the movie. If you don't, it's okay to just call it sci-fi movie sketchbook or something like this. At the top, you're going to add your title, genre, logline, and comps, or at least spaces for those things if you do not know the answers to those things yet. Genre, try to narrow it down to just 2 genres. You don't want to have a mix of 9 different, an incomprehensible soup of 9 different genres. For logline, it's 1 single sentence that expresses what is the story about. We'll get more into loglines and trying to finalize those today. And last, the comps. Try to narrow it down to just 2 comps. At least one of them should be a movie, ideally. But the other one might be a Broadway play, a cartoon, a video game, or something else weird. It can be if you want it to be. Usually a movie or show will be best for the comps, though. Just say it's this meets that. One thing meets the other thing, not meets that, meets that, meets that, meets that. Just 2 comps at the most. But you can have a list of several if you're not sure which ones to settle on yet. Okay, so that's the basics of Sketchbook. Everything else, there's no rules. You have to fill out the sketchbook with all of your ideas, every little shred of influence, inspiration, and whatever else other sort of pre-writing you'll need to do in relation to that one idea. So fill that sketchbook up and never really stop working on it. I really recommend having it open even during class and to be continuing to add ideas, write down questions, filling out that space as much as possible whenever you're doing work on the script. And you don't want to have a bunch of these. You want to just keep that all in one same document as much as you can. Okay, let's check what Dan's updates were from that he was typing in the chat a moment ago. He says, I want to develop I have a desire to delve into the outlining process instead of pantsing no planning style. Okay, great. Structure, planning, organization. And he also says, I want to get better at knowing and figuring out comps. Cool. Yep, those are things a lot of people work on a lot. So week 1 is sketchbook and logline. Week 2 is going to be story beats. Week 3 will expand story beats into scene cards, which are the full paragraphs for every scene in the whole movie, alongside page numbers and names for those moments. And then week 4 through 8, we go to pages. Go to pages meaning we move from pre-writing into actually executing the scenes, writing dialogue, blocking the scenes, everything else. So that's just a look at the road ahead. So you have a few weeks to figure out everything that happens in the movie before you even need to download your screenwriting software and start writing interior, Roadhouse Day for your Roadhouse sequel. Let's look ahead. We are supporting rewrites as well in these courses, so if you're doing a rewrite, just remember you do have to get your own feedback. So this week, you have to get all the responses you can to your script and assemble them all of their thoughts into one coherent notes document. So that's your goal this week if you're a rewriter. But we are going in with the assumption most of you are indeed writing a brand new thing. I won't go too much into feedback and notes document at the moment, but I'll leave this up just for a moment to say this is just kind of a glance at what that would be. Look for that feedback that comes from those 2 different sources at least that agrees on the same points, and those are going to be the stuff that you'll pay the most attention to. Okay, let's not focus too much on rewrites though. Let's go into loglines because we want to really nail those loglines today and make sure everyone's ideas are working. So in about 5 minutes we will share those loglines. I'm going to go over the basics again, so don't post them just yet. But whether you have an updated one from last week or a brand new one, you can get feedback on that today. And if you're trying to decide between different ones, try to narrow it down to about 3 options. If you're trying to say, which one is the best, which one do you think I should go with, then just include 3 at the most. Okay, let's go back over the essentials of logline. This is the central conflict distilled down into just one single sentence. So we want to do a couple things, a bunch of things really. One, we want to say, who is this about? What are they trying to do? What's standing in the way? And why do we care? We want to clarify that sense of motivation, stakes, and urgency for the main character. We want an idea of the scope and scale of the movie. So, how long basically is this going to take place over the course of? Is there a ticking clock or some sort of sense of escalation in that logline? We want to have that kind of pressure cooker situation where your main character is going to be tested, trying to get the thing they want with some sort of ironic hook to the situation, ideally for a clean high concept. It doesn't really matter how a high concept or execution dependent your logline is, as long as it really feels like it has a clear genre to it, like you know what you're making and you know what the appeal is. So here's the basic template for this. It doesn't always have to follow exactly this, but these are the major questions that we will often ask about. We want to know what starts off the story. The inciting incident is also called the catalyst, and that's the one thing that gets your story moving. It's the first sort of domino to topple over the other dominoes in the chain. When your character runs away from home, when his house burns down, when he gets assigned to a new serial killer to investigate, when a supervillain blows up his house. Like, think of whatever it is that gets the story started, and everything else sort of stems from that. An adjective protagonist tells us who your main character is, usually kind of at the start of the story, and it might inform us and give us some kind of clue as to the unique tactics, limitations, or flaws that they might utilize or be hindered by. Must conflict before stakes. Must conflict is really telling us that's what they're doing in the meat and the sort of heart of the story, the middle of the story. This is basically telling us what is Act 2. They must blank. Tells us what goal they're actively pursuing. And we should also have some sense of, like, what are they trying to overcome or what's standing in the way of them doing that. And the last sort of blank to fill in is stakes, before blank happens. So that's either before the worst case scenario is to occur in this situation, what would happen if the main character failed or did not act, or it could also include a ticking clock, which tells us, like, your main character has only 2 hours to clean up the house from the party before mom and dad, get back home, that kind of thing. So stakes or ticking clock are a great way to sort of finish off the logline and give us that full sense of what the scope and scale of the story are. Okay, that's logline essentials. I want to pause for any questions on that before we post and share. Any questions on logline basics? I don't see any questions. I do see a question in the chat from Carmen. During my research, I discovered a real-life incantation that gradually is supposed to turn someone into a Laik, which is like a vampire demon that she was writing a movie about. But why would someone want to be one? Why would you want to be a cool vampire? Because they live forever, usually, is going to be why I would want to be one, right? Because they have cool powers. Can they fly? I mean, there's all kinds of cool stuff vampires can do. Mostly live forever is what draws the broadest audience towards vampirism, though, I would say. And they can fly. Okay, I can fly and I can live forever. It'd be now I'm on board. It's an easy sell. Okay, so let's open to posting loglines. Go ahead and post and share your loglines. And while you're doing that, I'm going to maybe just go over some of the other just very basics for the next minute or so. I will give feedback in the order that they come in. Thank you, Luke and Dan. While you guys are posting, I'll give you just a moment. Let me just clarify a couple things on this slide here. So we're looking for stories that are not too big and not too small, so it feels like it would take about 2 hours of movie, at 90 minutes to 2 hours of movie to cover this dramatic action. Too small would mean that it would be better suited to like a web series or a one-act play or a comic sketch or something along those lines. We're looking for stakes that are visceral and high, as high as appropriate and as high as makes sense for their genre, meaning if you're writing horror or action, life and death is pretty much the expectation. Whereas if you're writing something like romance, mystery, or drama, then you have to really clarify what sort of really primal motivations are driving your main character to act and to pursue their goal. Movies are visual and dynamic and about people doing stuff, not about people sitting around discussing or thinking about stuff for the most part. We're looking for tangible goalposts, meaning not he must discover himself or he must come to terms with something. Those are very internal and nebulous kinds of goals. We're looking for an external journey that feels as if it would interweave with this implied internal journey over the course of 90 minutes with this strong sense of urgency and immediacy. Okay, let's start with feedback on loglines as they come in, and I will get to as many as I can. And I will need each writer that's sharing to answer questions about them on the mic. Okay, let's start with Dan, Pride Before.
Hello.
Hi. Let's read out what we've got here. Can you start us off?
Sure. Pride Before. Comps, James Bond. This is why I want help. Something else, I guess. Action and drama. When a selfless Russian-American fighter is blamed for the death of a hostage, he must save said hostage for his own exoneration while navigating a crumbling personal life as the CIA hunts him down.
All right, thanks for that. So, quick question. Did the hostage die or not?
They did not.
They did not. But he's blamed for the death of the hostage, meaning everyone
Yes.
thinks the hostage died?
Everyone thinks he's the one who killed her.
Okay, I never would have grasped that unless I had asked this question. So, everyone thinks that that the hero killed the hostage, but in fact the hostage is not even dead. They don't even have a body. Right. What? I'm wondering how this circumstance could even unfold exactly. You might have to clarify in your logline a little bit what you mean actually happened here.
I was thinking along the lines of, since it's like CIA and other sorts of big, super powerful supervillains, they could create a fake video that shows like a surveillance footage of him spliced together of him shooting the hostage.
Okay, in that case, that your logline would feel a little different, though, wouldn't it? Because right now you just say he's blamed.
I'm not sure how to word it.
If you say he's blamed for it, that doesn't quite convey the idea that a doctored video seems
framed, maybe?
Say that again?
Framed?
Yeah, exactly. A doctored video. A terrorist group frames him for the murder of an innocent person, right?
Framed via doctored video? I don't know, that just sounds wordy.
Okay, but that is the idea, right? It's not just, like, the wording right now is even more ambiguous. So you'll have to just find a way to sort of crystallize and clarify what exactly is happening there, right? So there's some sort of evil bad guy group that's faked the video to blame the main character, to sort of frame the main character for this death. He must then save the hostage in order to save his reputation, basically, is what you're saying, or to save his.
That's what he thinks.
Right, or to exonerate himself while navigating a crumbling.
And save a hostage because it's a hostage.
Right. He must save the hostage while navigating a crumbling personal life as the CIA hunts him down. Okay, so he's like a fugitive. He's framed and turned into a fugitive. Is that right?
Yes.
Got it. And in terms of this mission, I guess it would almost. So hang on, is he like sort of actively in the field, or is he at home in the U.S.?
He's at home.
He's at home the whole time.
He's like, how most action heroes are just like, they're average guys, but they're Bruce Willis. So somehow they're really just super gods at fighting. Or at least their or at least their stunt doubles are.
Okay, but meaning that he lives like Ethan Hunt style, like with a wife and kids in the suburbs and stuff? Like he has a sort of normal family life?
Yeah, he's got a sorta.
Okay.
I'm not sure how to word that, though.
You don't need to necessarily include all of that. I'm just trying to grasp the story world right now. So he is at home, not in the field, while he is at home, the video is released, and that sort of sends his life into a spiral, I guess you're saying, because this video becomes public?
Well, he's got a regular home life, but he goes out and does this sort of almost vigilante style heroing.
Vigilante style? Wait, what?
I don't know. I don't know how to word this. You know how please tell me I'm making sense.
Well, but James Bond's not a vigilante. He works for the government.
Right. Well, okay, maybe. Well, this is kind of like. Well, it's kind of like he's fighting supervillains and stuff.
Supervillains? Oh, I wouldn't have gotten that at all. So you didn't include
I'm really bad
anything
at
that
this.
sounded.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So yeah, I would if we're in a superhero world, that's a different story. I would try to layer that into the logline a little bit, like, especially I don't even know what a Russian American fighter is. Is a fighter a soldier, or is a fighter a superhero, or a boxer?
I wanted to just say action hero, but that feels a little too on the nose.
But action hero is not really a real thing, right? That's just
exactly
an archetype of movie character. Whereas an action hero could be many different things, like a firefighter or a special forces soldier or a sniper or a commando or anything else, right?
Right.
Okay, so you might have to just get a little more specific as to who your main character is and who does he work for.
All right, I guess I could do that.
Cool. So another good comp for you might be something like True Lies is like a movie about an Arnold Schwarzenegger action hero that, you know, has the home life that he's trying to balance with his, you know, blowing up stuff life as well. So that's a very big, famous movie.
True Eyes?
True Lies, yeah. Have you seen that one?
No, and Google didn't know. Oh, Lies.
Lies, yes. True Lies.
That I know of.
Okay, cool. Well, that might be a good comp for you as well. So, the basics of hero gets blamed for doing bad, or framed for doing bad thing, and now needs to save victim of said framed bad thing in order to exonerate themselves. Totally, you're in good territory. I mean, we've seen that in terms of the Fugitive might be another good comp for you, something like that. There's a lot of stories that we've seen like this in the past. Born is another maybe example you could use, like Born Identity kind of thing. But I think because the specifics were not really nailed down, it was hard to envision some of the things in this logline. For instance, is he in the field or is he at home? What is a fighter and what is his actual role, right? Is it the sort of thing where he needs to sort of redeploy back into the field in order to sort of start a new? Because, like, are you saying he's sort of leaving?
Yes, I'm saying that he.
Go ahead.
I guess I'm saying that he maybe used to be like a cop or something until something in his life made him just become more of a shut-in, but he still goes out and does vigilante, just does good things because he doesn't like seeing people suffer. And for some reason, somebody out there doesn't like that he's doing that.
I don't think anyone should like that he's doing that. No one should have to be doing that.
Yeah, nobody likes that he's saving people.
Oh, he's saving people. Okay, but nobody should be taking the law into
their hurting them. He is the hero.
Okay, but so are we in superhero world or are we in action movie world?
Action movie more so. Action movie
more
type.
so. We are okay because
there's like there's like spy villains are like sometimes really weird.
But in action movie worlds, the main characters are usually not vigilantes that we.
Yeah, they're normal people.
Right, or maybe not normal exactly, but they work for government agencies and political factions and things like that, right?
Yes, but it's kind of hard to work for that when he's being framed by them as well.
That happens all the time in this kind of movie. Ethan Hunt has been framed like 9 times. He quits the agency in like every other movie. So I wouldn't worry about that. I would just kind of nail down some of the specifics of who does your main character work for, what does he actually do, what is his role, and that should help you kind of clarify a little bit different parts of this logline that were kind of nebulous and hard for me to grasp.
All right.
Okay, so keep working on that. We can check back by the end of class today if you want to get one more opinion on it.
Sure.
Cool. Any questions?
At the moment, not really.
Okay, keep at it. You will find the exact right way to phrase all of this, I'm sure. Thanks, Dan. Let's go with Luke.
Hello.
Hello. Let's take a look. Oh, we've already checked this one in the past, but let's just
Pretty much.
Yeah, confirm everything.
There's only, I think the only thing I might change is outcast member.
Okay. Just go ahead and read the whole thing.
Abducted and forced into a superfan's dungeon of deadly games, an outcast member must reunite the boy band he fractured to survive.
An outcast members does sound a little strange there, doesn't it? You mean like...
Yeah, I don't like it.
Outcast... I was almost going to say boy, but you don't call them just
Right.
boys.
I mean, I kind of do in the script, but I don't want to do that in the logline.
Professional boy. An outcast performer? No, that sounds weird too. I'm not sure what the word actually would be. Somebody that knows more about this kind of band should weigh in. But yeah, that was the only thing I tipped over a tiny bit. Must reunite the boy band he fractured to survive. That sounds good. Nice way that you've linked the backstory and motivation into the sentence. And I get all the rest. I just haven't seen Together, and I do not know what that is, so you've lost me there, but that's neither here nor there.
Okay. Well, options for boy band movies are kind of limited.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Understood.
and it's not animated, it's not turning red, so...
For your gory horror. Okay, so this the logline you've clearly worked on over several weeks, and it's quite refined and working well. Did you have any questions or concerns about any of this?
Not really. I think I'm probably going to change outcast member. Just not quite sure how to describe the main character. Like a brooding... I don't know.
Maybe just something like a brooding outcast would kind of convey the idea.
Brooding outcast. A brooding outcast must reunite the boy band he fractured to survive. I think that works, actually.
Yeah, I think it could work.
All right.
Well,
I'll make a note of that one.
The rest of this is working quite well.
Yep. Well, thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Luke. Keep it up, and that's Charlie working on that as well. Is she here?
I don't think so.
Don't think so. Okay. Let's move on to Bum Feature from, is this Jaime? Action movie. Punisher meets hobo with a shotgun. Hi, can you hear us? Your mic is muted on Discord. You might need to check.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you now. Hello.
Hello, Connor.
So, welcome back. Can you read out what you've got here for us today?
Yeah, so the title is Bum, format, feature, genre, action. Comps, The Punisher meets hobo with a shotgun. Logline, when a sex trafficking organization kidnaps vulnerable women and girls in the Skid Row area of downtown Los Angeles, a near-homeless combat veteran decides to hunt down the traffickers and rescue the victims.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. So, a couple quick questions. What is near homeless?
Well, in Skid Row, you can either be homeless or you could live in one of the many motel rooms. They call them SRO housing. They're just like really converted motel rooms, but it's for people to get them off the street. So that's what near homeless means.
But he doesn't actually have a permanent residence, right?
Correct.
So he basically just is homeless, wouldn't you say?
Is there a problem with the near homeless?
It's just that it raises the question, what does that mean, right? And I think you just want to avoid introducing a concept that makes the reader just go, what? So I would just say homeless, because that's ultimately, if you don't have a house, I think you are. If you don't have a permanent residence, regardless of the fact that you have a temporary housing situation, I think it would be better to describe them as unhoused or homeless.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Cool.
I'll take out the near. So this is I wrote this out as you were speaking, Connor. So I've been playing with this idea for some time, and I've been to a couple of these, like week 0, week 1, and you mentioned about just doing something that's
doesn't require a whole lot of research, and also is just out there just to get my writing chops in, and so that's what I'm going to do with this story. It's just an idea I've had in my head, so I just wrote this out while you were talking. So it's just my first attempt at this log line and comps or whatever. So
okay, great. Yeah, no, I largely get the movie. I mean, the comps make sense. I get the basics of the story. You might just want to ask a couple questions as you continue to refine this. So, question number 1, you say he kidnaps vulnerable women and girls, but is there any kind of connection between the victims and the main character? Because if it's
I'm still up. Again, I just wrote this out, but yeah, he has to develop some kind of relationship with maybe one of the young girls, or a single mom and her daughter, or something like that. I just don't have that down yet.
Okay, yeah. So I'll just I understand that this is not finished, so you'll need to do some more thinking on a lot of aspects of this. But I'm just going to give you a couple areas.
Yeah, Leon, the professional, he had to develop that relationship with Matilda, or Taken. Liam Neeson already had that established relationship with his daughter, of course.
Yeah.
There has to be some kind of connection. I understand that.
Right. So if you can, once you think of that, you can highlight that in the logline a little bit more. So you don't need to use as many words on explaining, especially because most readers and things like this are in Los Angeles. We know what Skid Row is, so you can actually just say, in Skid Row, we know what you mean.
Okay.
Save a bunch of words there.
All right.
A combat veteran. So yeah, we want to know his connection, and then just kind of a word to watch out for is this term "decides to," because that kind of implies that there's not really a super clear inherent connection between what's going on. So you'll want to say something like, really clarify what's motivating him and where that urgency is coming from. And I think you're sort of saying in something like Taken, isn't it kind of like we need to rescue them before they get sold to a buyer somewhere, then we're going to lose track of them. So there's that ticking clock kind of built in. So if you have something like that can be like, you have only 1 week, you have only 3 days, you have only 1 day, whatever it is that can maybe just help us clarify the scope and scale of the story.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. So that's the basics. I know if you just came up with this, you are still deciding or thinking about a lot of those things, but that would be where I would start. So connection between main character and the victims, motivation of why does he decide to spring into action, and that will help us just understand the character a little more.
Okay.
Cool. Any questions on this one?
No questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for this. Very straightforward, simple story. That would be, you made the right choices in terms of things that won't take a ton of research. It'll be relatively straightforward, but great to just flex your muscles and just work on fundamentals.
Right. Okay.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, great. Let's do our next one. Dakota. Harker. 2 different loglines here. Are you trying to decide between these 2?
Yeah, I'm leaning more towards the second one, just because it feels better, is clearer. But yeah.
Okay, why don't you read out what you have?
Sure. So working title is Harker. So the comps is Carnival of Souls and Last Night in Soho. It is a horror feature, which is something I've never done before, so that'll be interesting. So first logline that I have is, when his family is hunted by Dracula, Jonathan Harker joins forces with the Wolfman to uncover the vampire's vengeful plans against him. And then number 2 is, when he experiences lucid nightmares of his time in Transylvania, Jonathan Harker joins forces with the Wolfman to prevent Dracula's vendetta against him.
All right, thanks for this. So, is this like a prequel or a sequel to Dracula? This is a sequel to Dracula? Is that right?
A sequel to Bram Stoker's novel? Yes.
A straight up sequel. Okay. It has been done before. You're not the first to do such things, but that's okay.
Right.
So, looking at these 2 loglines, are you trying to figure out how to focus the story, or are you just trying to figure out the specific sort of phrasing or help me understand why you have the 2 loglines here?
Just the phrasing. Just because I know that that nightmares are like a big part of it. I've already started outlining already. So I just wanted to kind of solidify this a bit more, which is why I'm leaning more towards the second one, because it actually mentions that more. So yeah, mostly just figuring out language at this point.
Okay, so let's look at some things like cause and effect, which I think are really important to look at here. So I'll just kind of start with logline 1, then look at logline 2. So logline 1, when his family's hunted by Dracula, did we not kill Dracula at the end of Dracula, or did Dracula get away? Help me remember.
So it depends on how you look at it, honestly. So in some cases he dies, in other versions he does not. I'm saying he is dead with an asterisk.
Oh, okay. So you might want to kind of clarify by like when Dracula reemerges from death and begins hunting his family again, or something like that, right? Just so we kind of understand like where we are in the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So when Dracula dredges himself up from his grave, or maybe when somebody clones Dracula, or Dracula gets wished into existence on a kid's birthday, whatever it is that makes him come back would probably be your inciting incident. Not so much his family being... I mean, I understand that also would draw him into this. Jonathan Harker he wasn't the lawyer, was he? That was...
He was the solicitor. He's the main character. He's the first one that we kind of are with in the novel. He's kind of the main character, really.
Is this the one that was played by Keanu Reeves in the movie?
Yes.
It is. Okay.
Yes.
So he is
Keanu Reeves.
He goes to Transylvania to settle the accounts, accounts, I guess.
Real estate. Real estate.
Okay. And in the process, his whole family gets messed up, and his fiance gets killed, I believe, and and all kinds of terrible things happen to him. But now he's moved on from the events of the story, and now Dracula's reemerged. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And Dracula's coming specifically for him and his family.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
So when Dracula returns and begins hunting down his family, Jonathan Harker joins forces with the Wolfman to uncover the vampire's vengeful plans against him. Isn't the vampire trying to kill him and his family? Isn't that his vengeful plan? What do we have to uncover?
Well, a lot of it is vendetta. So that's kind of why the second one is a little bit better, because there's also Van Helsing, and there's also a bunch of other people that were also involved in Transylvania that also got away. So it's more so the vendetta bit that is the ticking clock. It's like, oh, it's not just me he's after. It's after everybody else that was involved in, his original demise too.
I see. Right. But we don't really have to uncover that. Like, that's pretty clear why he wants revenge, right? Aren't these the people that took him down? Like, there's no mystery there, is there?
No, not really.
Okay. So maybe...
that's kind of why that's why the language is weird.
Okay. So I think that we need the Wolfman to do a little more than just figure out, why is Dracula trying to kill me? We know why Dracula is trying to kill me. So in that case, you might want to frame it a little bit more like we must join forces with the Wolfman in order to do a daring raid on Dracula's castle and kill him, or to do, be more specific about what do we actually need to do with the Wolfman and how will he help us. Logline 2, when he experiences lucid nightmares of his time in Transylvania, Jonathan Harker joins forces with the Wolfman to prevent Dracula's vendetta against him. Those events don't connect. How is him having nightmares connected with Dracula's vendetta in the first place? It sounds like the events that starts the story is Dracula comes back to life. Or maybe never died, or something like that. Maybe just tell us, how is he back? Somehow, Dracula has returned. The Star Wars method.
Sure.
Somehow.
Right. So somehow Dracula comes back, and that is largely due to at this point, again, still trying to figure out what that device is. Some kind of plot convenience and narrative device that is just there. But basically, the point is that Jonathan is having nightmares about what's going on, and these things are actually happening to him. It's not just nightmares, they're actually happening in reality. And the Wolfman is also there. He's, and because of that, he's admitted. So there's a lot of things that I was like, okay, how do I include this in a sentence? So that's why I'm having issues with this. Loglines are difficult for me.
Yeah, so let's take it just one step at a time. When Dracula reemerges now, and that coincides with, I guess you're saying he's having visions or lucid nightmares of what happened to him, which are sort of omens of Dracula's return.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Now that his family members are getting picked off or eaten or turned against him, I imagine, probably is what draws him into the story. Now he needs the help of the Wolfman and others from his previous adventure, so he needs to get the gang back together?
Yep.
Okay. So it's a little like Van Helsing, like that movie, where
basically
needs to get the wolf. The only thing that can kill a vampire is a wolfman, apparently, I guess.
Apparently,
in that world. So yeah, I would. So if this is like a team building type of story, then you probably want to start it off with something like, when Dracula returns from his grave and begins targeting Jonathan Harker's family members, he must unite the previous members of the vampire hunting party as well as the new guy, the Wolfman, who will help them do a daring raid on Dracula's castle, or whatever it is that they have to actually specifically do. So try to find that sense of trajectory and direction for the characters. I mean, the idea is cool. The idea this could basically be called Dracula's Return or Dracula Returns, right?
Right.
And that's awesome. I mean, that's just simple. So simple.
Yeah.
Like, of course we do a sequel to Dracula. It just makes sense. Or you could just, calling it just Harker is cool as well. It does sort of have that kind of prequel vibe, if you call it that, just because we've seen so much of like the Kenobi sort of thing at this point, right?
Right.
But that aside, that's really neither here nor there. So just to try to get that order of events correct, Dracula comes back, starts attacking Harker's family, and now in order to stop and kill Dracula, I guess is the goal, right?
Yeah.
Okay, in order to kill Dracula, we need to get the gang of hunters back together. So we need to get Van Helsing and the gang back together. And then you need to, in addition to that, tell us, why does the Wolfman need to be here? Do we really need the Wolfman if we have Van Helsing, the greatest vampire slayer in the world?
I mean, it depends if you actually want to kill Dracula or not. Because it didn't work last time. So, with Van Helsing.
Okay, yeah, so maybe Van Helsing ain't. We don't even need him because he messed up, clearly, his last gig, he didn't even deliver.
Also, Van Helsing is old. Like, really old. By the end of the book.
Okay. How long is this later in the timeline? How long later?
So,
how much later is it?
It's about 5 to 7 years.
Got it. Okay. So sometimes something like that is even useful to include if you can fold that into the logline. Something like 5 years after his harrowing ordeal in Transylvania, blank and blank and blank and blank happens. So the basics are here. I want to know why we need the Wolfman, and I want to get that sense of getting the gang back together, and make sure that you have that inciting instinct clarified at the beginning.
Okay.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Any questions?
Nope.
Great. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks.
Okay. Looks like we have. I'll just check the chat and make sure we get to all these questions I see. From Jennifer, she says, I signed up for the basic course and having trouble accessing the calendar in Discord. Is there a guide or help forum somewhere? So in order to find the Discord, you can go to our website, scriptcamp.net. And in the top right, you'll see a button right here that just says login with the Discord logo on it. There it is. And if you click that, it should bring you right to our Discord server. You will need to log in or sign up for Discord if you've not already done that, though. Hope that helps. Okay. Let me see. Are there more log lines that I've not gotten to? And thank you, Nacho. So yeah, if you join using our Discord link, make sure to just join our classroom channel. And in the chat, you can find a link to all the upcoming events. In the top left-hand corner of Discord, you can see the 82 events tab, which you can see all the stuff coming up. Okay, we have a full hour left. I just want to make sure that I got to all. I think I might have gotten all the log lines. Did I miss anyone? I guess not. Okay. Well, there's a bunch of folks here that seems like maybe you don't have a logline yet, or you're not ready to share it. In any case, you will have the chance today, if you can get it ready in the next hour or so, to share for feedback and make sure that you're on the right track before moving ahead to the next stages. Make sure that you get the logline really solid because it acts as that really strong foundation for the rest of the architecture of the story, meaning that everything that we build on top of this the more that you stack on top of it, the more it will reveal architectural inadequacies in the design of the logline in the first place. So it's got to be a solid, strong logline as the foundation. Then we can start to build the wooden framework of the story beats over top of it, and then the metal framework of the scene cards over that, and then you're ready to start filling in the middle. That's not how buildings work, but that's how writing scripts works. Okay, so if there's no other loglines to give feedback on, I hope everybody is on the right track or feels that they have enough that they can start really filling out their sketchbooks as much as possible. Start adding things to them, questions, ideas that will help shape your story. Looks like I'm displaying wrong tab. 1 second. Here we go. Okay, what are we looking for in loglines? So, in just the basics of your premise, something with an element of the familiar mixed with something fresh and unique is kind of just one of those essential ways of explaining what makes a hooky high concept logline. Something we basically get, it's this in the world of that. You know, we've seen movies about commandos and army guys before, but have we ever seen one with commandos and army guys in the bottom of the ocean before? Okay, that sounds cool. I would love to see a deep ocean action movie kind of thing. The logline should make it clear the story has an audience. Movies can only happen once in one specific way, and often cover the most pivotal and important moments in the protagonist's life. Not always. And usually we have this asterisk next to that idea that says the most important events of their life so far, in that they might continue to have more adventures after the movie finishes, but for the purposes of their life up until this point, this is the most pivotal, most key event. We want to see that internal journey sort of mirrored and amplified and pushed to its inevitable conclusion by the external journey. So you don't have to clarify. He must make his way from Dallas to San Antonio, or that's pretty close, aren't they? He must make his way from Dallas to Milwaukee, and also along the way, he has to improve himself as a human being and become a better father. You would imply that internal part, right? You would say something like, when his estranged kids end up trapped in the car with him on a long ride all the way to Milwaukee, a single dad must weather the many challenges of the road. Something along those lines. You don't have to spell out the internal journey. We want to just understand the internal journey. And by having that clear enough sort of story math in place, distant father, estranged relationship with kids, being forced together and forced to sort of see the value of each other and work together, or whatever it is that we do in road trip type stories, that by the end, our main character will have sort of completed both the internal journey of him reconnecting with his children with the external journey of him getting from point A to point C. So you don't need to spell out all the internal theme stuff. You don't need to say this is a poignant journey that will touch your heart. That is kind of for us to decide, the audience to decide. It should seem like your character is uniquely suited for the story. Their internal journey is sort of being exacerbated, or their internal issues are being exacerbated by the external circumstances. And the character changes in interesting ways through this journey. So avoid something that sounds like a series of recurring situations. Like, when a new guy joins the office, he must have a series of disconnected, wacky adventures as he tries to fix his boss's various mistakes. You want to have the idea that you're culminating, or you're building towards something. So you want to usually use that idea of a ticking clock that to help us understand that we are moving inevitably through the story with a sense of doom and dread and momentum and direction, tension. A unique and fascinating hook. This is going to be a sense of irony, a new or surprising point of view, some variation or interesting mashup of familiar elements that allows you to take something that it seems that we've seen before, or you might imagine that like the fans themselves, the fans of your genre have seen everything out there. But here's how you would sell them on the idea. Here's how you would get them to actually go out of their way to pay money to watch this one. You've seen 1,000 action movies, but have you ever seen an action movie set on the surface of the sun? No, never. Okay, I'm sold, right? It doesn't take too much sometimes. We just want something familiar with something strange. And the idea of some different point of view that we've seen before, or maybe it's watching a character with some unique or interesting flaw that is approaching this problem, or maybe we've swapped around some of the typical archetype or archetypical roles within the world or the story, right? Maybe we want to see a sort of, let's do a Western, but from the perspective of a character, not a gunslinger, but from someone we never normally see. How about a barber? A Western that centers on a barber would be pretty cool. So always be thinking just what's that one thing I can tweak or change or say my story is different and stands out because it shows us something we haven't seen in this exact way before. We have some loglines of mine that I don't really want to go too into right now. Comps we touched on. We're going to be trying to narrow this down to just 2 comps. This meets that. This movie meets that movie, but it could also be a TV show, video game, or Broadway, whatever you want. As long as it's known by the reader. You don't earn points for picking comps the reader does not know. You only lose points for that. If they have to go look it up, they've just gotten a little annoyed, so we want to pick stuff that people will know. These are used all the time. All the time. Managers really love comps because it helps us set the direction and the sort of temperature and the specific tone that you're going for in terms of the script. So it tells us if you pick something comedic, we might imagine, okay, this is going to be a comedic story. If you pick 2 very serious and dramatic things, we will understand the tone to be, we're always going to understand the tone to be some combination of the things that you've given us, right? So by picking 2 things that contrast, you're saying that it's somewhere in the middle, or taking one element from this and transposing it into the world of the other thing. By including 2 comps that are in the same tone and style, you're saying this is definitively something that fits within that mold. You don't want to typically pick comps that are way too similar, though. Like, if your comps are like Zelda meets Lord of the Rings, it's kind of like, well, Zelda was always like a little bit Lord of the Rings, so you're sort of just saying it's vanilla with more vanilla. It'd be better to pick something more specific that feels like it sets it apart, not just pick 2 of the same thing. Okay, so I already gave feedback on everybody's loglines. I could give more feedback on fictional loglines or loglines from examples that I think that we have gotten most of the basics by now. We've gone a little bit over how to fill out a sketchbook, snippets of dialogue, research, photos, YouTube videos, drawings, links, ideas for characters, notes, sketches, and ideas. Everything else, there's nothing that does not go in a sketchbook, really. Premise is what we've been talking about. It's that core driving force behind why everything is happening on screen. I think we're far enough along at this point that I don't have to really belabor the idea of premise. You guys get the premise is what the movie's about. We are looking for stories that are universally relevant in some kind of way. Ideas that are baked into human nature and elemental themes about love, death, friendship, and experiences that transcend time or location. As well as, ideally, you found some way to make it feel relevant today. So we're looking at these universal themes in a way that we only can, given the culture, technology, or whatever else it is that just makes this feel pressing and relevant nowadays. You don't have to have a perfect, amazing premise if you're just starting out. It is important to have a good premise. A premise is going to imply a genre, determine who has the ability or interest to make something like that, and simply it just demonstrates how marketable your idea is, because stronger premises are more marketable and more likely to sell and make money, things like this. More likely to be read and produced and become profitable movies, even given the incredibly low chances of that happening in the very difficult Hollywood climate today. Strong premise is barometer for the quality of the script. Well, I think I already went over that sense of high concept versus execution dependent today, so we won't go way too into this, but high concept, just remember, does not mean more complicated. It means an engaging, self-contained premise with broad appeal that has some really clear element of irony, or this sort of something that sparks in the imagination that allows the idea to bloom in the mind and suggest a conflict structure, and essentially the whole movie. We would say maybe it, quote, writes itself. Obviously, it doesn't really write itself. It's a lot of hard work to write, but it is an idea that allows the reader to immediately imagine a bunch of sequences from the movie and the basic progression or trajectory, even if they don't know specifically what happens there. Okay, so we have a question. Out of curiosity, what would the loglines be for something like Master and Commander or Kingdom of Heaven? Both are massively epic in scale, so I'm curious as to how that's trimmed into a sentence. Well, I don't really remember Kingdom of Heaven at all, but Master and Commander I've seen lots of times. And the nice thing is that it's not absolutely massive in scale. It's about a ship commander who's hunting down another ship, right? That's the scope of the movie. So it centers on that personal vendetta and rivalry between this ship and that ship. It's not covering a whole war. And while the movie itself is sort of episodic in that the villain is not just the members of that enemy ship, it's sort of all the dangers and things that can go wrong at sea is like the, quote, antagonist of the movie. It's essentially a man versus nature type story. So we might say something like a headstrong and arrogant, like we'd have to figure out the inciting incident first, though, wouldn't we? Which is something like when their quarry eludes them, or when they're, with the ship they're hunting escapes from them, something like that. An arrogant and headstrong commander must hunt down an enemy French vessel through, storms and island. What was it like? Through the rocky waters and the many challenges of life at sea. Something like that, right? We would want to express: here's the main character. Here's what he's trying to do: capture the enemy ship. What's standing in the way? Everything that can go wrong on the ocean. And what's the urgency? And where's the sort of sense of motivation and pressure coming from? Well, the main character is this arrogant, headstrong kind of guy that can't let it go. So while every other character is trying to get the protagonist to give it up and stop, give up this crazy quest, he just won't do it. He's the one that drives his crew. It's a very protagonist-motivated sort of movie. But in terms of just those basics, ship captain, main character, is trying to catch enemy ship. What's in the way? The many challenges of sea life. What happens if he fails? Well, his crew and him will all die. There we go. So not too complicated. And what's it called? Kingdom of Heaven. Maybe you can do the same thing with and let me know just basics. Main character. What is he trying to do? What's in the way? What happens if he fails? Feel free to fill that in the chat and I can check back in a bit. But there's no story that cannot be beated out in just one single sentence in those essential terms. And what a great time to advertise the AI that I made, which is called Script Logline Helper. If you have a ChatGPT Pro account, you can find it on the GPT store. I made and trained this AI which can evaluate logline concepts and help you make a new one by asking you basic questions as to who is your main character, what are they trying to do, the basic stuff like that, and it will help you stitch your sentence together into the most readable and coherent possible thing, and then evaluate it using the critique portion as well. So that's just an option if you are interested in AI and using it in terms of writing tools. This is something I built and I'm really proud of and spent a long time on, so definitely check it out. Seamless plug. Okay, we're back. So, in terms of execution dependent versus high concept, the opposite of high concept is not really low concept. Nobody really says low concept. It's execution dependent, meaning that it would require a strong execution, character study, cinematography, performances, or some other strengths that relate more to the artistic, how it is brought to life, rather than just the idea itself. This is a comedy because the characters will just be funny, just trust me, that kind of thing, right? Or any of these stories over here that kind of a little bit feel, like John Wick, for instance, is something that sounds very down the middle if you were just to read the logline for it. What's special about the movie really comes through in the choreography, the cinematography, and things like that, right? But it's hard to say, but by the way, the fight scenes will be really good. It doesn't mean it's a bad movie. Execution dependent doesn't mean it doesn't work at all. It just means that the premise does not really sell the idea in the way that it does for high concept. Look out for anything with really nebulous sounding sci-fi or fantasy stakes for that. Like, what's at stake? Oh, the Illyrian crystal subsector. It's like, what's that? I don't even know. So it's hard to gauge what that means or is. Comps we basically went over. Pick two things. Don't be obscure. Don't show off. Has it been done already? Here's a question for just originality. You might ask the question if you're wondering, has this been done before? And it's okay to wonder that, but it's also not really something you need to hyper-focus on if you are just getting going, just learning the basics and trying to write scripts for the first time. You don't need to worry about, is this the most original thing that's ever been made? Your goal is just to write a bunch of scripts, so it's okay to write things that have been sort of done before. There's a million ways to pull off any individual premise. You might ask just this question: has it been done, one of the above, with high quality or popularity, recently, or with the same tone or style? So if only one of those things is true, then you're totally fine. If more than one of those things is true, then it is probably not original enough. But don't worry, again, this is such a minor point. Your goal is to not blow anyone's minds when you're just learning the essentials. Titles, it will eventually become more important. In general, they're a useful tool, but they can change a lot throughout the development of a story. Many times it's not really up to you by the end of the process anyway. In any case, it's a good time to just get someone to read the work. Like, you have a comedy script, the title's something funny, or the title promises a funny experience, or it sort of clarifies the situation or the hook. A title is a really useful tool for clarifying the hook of the movie. They might also comment on or reframe the events of that story to add some new perspective or to hint at some kind of theme, too. If you call your movie something like Righteous Violence, and then it follows a vigilante doing violence, then it might draw into question that idea of, well, is it so righteous in the first place? Or anything else like that, right? You can always be questioning, how does the title apply to what is going on screen? And you can use that as a tool to draw audience interest. Blockbuster moments are just some of the big scenes for your movie. The really cool things, the really cool sequences where the music would swell up really big and would leave the audience breathless and cheering, or whatever else you're trying to deliver. These will be moments that you don't have to always think of them in order or have any great justification for what they would mean or how they'd get there yet. But even in the early phases of working on the sketchbook, it can be worth it to write down just ideas for, okay, what would some awesome moments be? In my nautical action movie, how about a moment where they have to fight a giant squid on the boat? Okay, that would be so cool. Or what about a moment where in our action movie where the character has to jump his car off a ramp between interstate overpasses? Some Fast and Furious stuff, right? So just think of, completely divorced from any kind of storytelling logic, just what would those cool moments be? What would it look like? What would it feel like? All those essentials. And then you can work up towards getting to a place where you can insert that into your story beats and find a time to tie that to a key story moment to make sure that it's making sense and adding and contributing to the narrative in the way that you need it to. So, always great to start coming up with ideas for blockbuster moments as early as the sketchbook. Characters, too, you want to have ideas for protagonists and antagonists and central relationships as the most important people in the movie. Movies need protagonists and main characters in 99% of cases, and although you don't need to mention their names in the logline, we won't really remember the names in the logline. You should start to build out this idea of who your characters are, who's on whose side, who's acting against who wants what, what's motivating them, what tactics or flaws do they have, what's standing in their way. And if you're wondering who's the best main character to choose, well, who has the hardest journey? Who has the most ironic journey? Who's suffering the most? Who's in the most pain? We like underdogs for a reason. So, I will look at revised loglines or take any other questions. Dan says he revised. Okay, I'm glad to look at the updated one if you want to share. Are you saying you edited the post that you made before? Maybe you can repost it in the chat. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, let's look at the new one. When a beloved Russian-American cop is framed for the death of a hostage via doctored video, cool, he must save said hostage while navigating a crumbling home life as the CIA and FBI hunt him down. Great. Why did you say he was Russian-American? Just curious. Does that have to do with the case in some way? Or does that was it a Russian hostage, or what? Does that link him to the events happening here?
It's more the fact that there's a lot of, it has to do with the modern era people being very leery and fearful and hateful of Russia and anybody who is Russian.
Okay. But does the case or the hostage or any of the events have to do with Russia, or no?
The hostage, no, but the framing of him does.
It does. What does that have to do with the framing of him? Like, they chose him because they're like, he's an evil Russian, so that way people will buy it?
Yeah, we got to stir up more, sentiment for hatred and war or something. CIA's weird.
Wait, so the CIA did it? They're the ones that framed him?
Yep.
They are. And they framed him, now they're hunting him down as well?
Yeah.
Okay, why?
Set an example.
An example? What kind of example?
To the public.
Oh, okay. What example is being set? You don't have to know the answer. I'm just curious. Why are they doing this?
Well, I'm not trying to explain it very well.
Do you need more time to
Let me see
think
if I
about
can
it?
try. Basically,
Go ahead.
we're dealing with a modern day era sort of story, very topical. There's tensions between America and Russia. Here's this guy giving who's giving the idea that all Russians are evil and we need to bomb them or something or other, a bad name. So let's frame him and ruin everything for him so he can say, see?
But a cop? Why
Now we need
why
to
a police officer?
see.
Though?
Now we need to give more money to Raytheon or whoever. I don't know.
But cops don't really have much to do with international politics or warfare, right?
No, but in a big city, it can raise enough awareness. You can make it a national topic about rogue cop or something.
So the CIA is framing him as like a sort of a false flag.
Maybe that's why I said, and that's why I said, and the FBI. Maybe the FBI is doing it instead, since they're the local pot stirrers.
Okay, maybe just pick one or the other. I don't know. Do we need to have multiple
Probably.
organizations hunting your main character down?
Yeah.
It kind of sounds like they're not as powerful if we need multiple of them. I think you only really need one.
Well, you send the mooks after the action hero. They never win one-on-one.
Okay, fair enough. But I would think one organization would be enough to take down one guy.
Fair enough.
So the fact that he's a cop is a little confusing for me, especially because you're saying this actually has so much to do with international politics. It would sort of make sense if he was like a war hero.
I was trying to find out the kind of what are most of these hero type characters like? I mean, he's just an average guy who just so happens to know how to tap into the power of the stunt doubles action moves.
Well, so if you want him to be just a completely normal guy, then that kind of cuts a lot of things off the table, like special forces soldier, I guess, right? You're saying he's not that? He's like, you want to deliberately say he's a little less competent than that?
I'm not really sure how to explain.
Wait, so is this... a little while ago you mentioned this was a world with superheroes and supervillains. Is that still what you're doing here? Or
No, there's no superheroes, but there are supervillains. It's like, yeah, you've got your villain. He's like somehow like James Bond somehow fights villains who make themselves out of metal or something.
Oh, wait, so there are superpowers in it, or there aren't?
I don't know if there's superpowers, but I don't really know how to word it.
That's okay. I'm just trying to establish some of the basics of the world and the.
As am I. I should have thought about this more carefully before tonight.
That's okay. So, I mean, you have a full week to sort of get everything nailed down if you want to stick to the milestones of the course. So, I would rethink the idea that he's a cop, or if he is a cop, then I think you need to kind of clarify why would he be targeted by people like the CIA, and what has this all got to do with the U.S. versus Russia? Just framing the context around the events here might be helpful.
Well, that stuff doesn't have to do with his journey. That just has to do with villain motivation.
Well, but if it's something like, with the U.S. and Russia on the brink of open war, like, is that how we're starting? That context would really inform why this story mattered and how it pertained to the main character, right?
Probably add that. Let me count the words before I do something stupid by adding more.
Okay, yeah, rarely will you just add more to fix problems in a logline considering how few words we get. So, like, I would just write down all the important points, then try to carve out the logline from that, right? Just the one simplest way of expressing why this matters to this character, how this pertains to his nationality or to his factional allegiance or anything like that. Try to clarify those things in the next rewrite.
All right.
Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing. Carmen says the Russian-American cop can maybe be a spy. That could be, or maybe people accuse him of being a spy. Something like that could also make sense. The KGB, or I guess not the KGB, what are they, FSB nowadays, have infiltrated the New York Police Department. Okay, I could see that sort of being a great way to connect things together if you wanted to go that route, but up to you. Okay, anyone else have a revision or anything that they want to share for more feedback? We can look at long lines. We have half an hour, or if not, we will end early. Let's check stream people. Gladiator Company 15 says, hi there. Hi, Gladiator Company. You can come join us on Discord if you want by going to scriptcamp.net. You can find that link in the top right corner. Otherwise, we're glad to have you watching on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, or the other usual places. Here's scriptcamp.net. There's the link. Although we might be wrapping up pretty soon if no one else has anything they want to share, any questions they'd like to ask, or anything they need to workshop for their feature. Let's open the floor one more time. Anyone else want to share anything or ask any questions? Feel free to either raise a hand or use the text chat. Carmen, go ahead. Hi, Carmen. Can you hear me okay? So we're not hearing your mic at the moment. Maybe try a different device, or maybe you're on push-to-talk mode. Still not hearing anything from Carmen. Maybe I'm the only one. Can anyone else hear her, or is it just me? Can't hear either. Okay. Some kind of problem with your mic or device, Carmen. Sorry about that. Feel free to reconnect and rejoin. Try again. Anyone else want to raise a hand and ask a question or use the text? Let us know. What are you still wondering about, working on, or looking for feedback on? Looks like Carmen's back. Do you want to try again? She says tech problems. That's okay. Well, I'll try to invite you back to the stage if you want to try your question again. All right, there, you're a speaker on stage. Try now. Still not getting any sound. Sorry, Carmen. Might be a problem with your mic. You might need to reconnect it. It's all good. Or I can take your question, of course, in the coming days. Or you can email me, Conor@scriptcamp.net, if you're looking to get a question answered between classes. She says it's my phone. Yeah, not sure what it would be, except if you somehow set it on push-to-talk mode, perhaps. So I will just let everyone know. So for next week, we want to finalize your logline, fill out your sketchbook as much as you can. You can get extra help tomorrow in Writer's Lab if you're a member, or in the Loglines with Conor channel if you are a member too, which you can get feedback between bootcamp sessions. Tomorrow's lab is from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific time, and you can bring up to 5 pages of anything you're working on for feedback as well. So for next time, finalize that logline. If you're working on a rewrite, get the feedback you want to use in one solid, consistent notes document. Using your logline as that guiding compass, fill out your sketchbook, come up with some great blockbuster moments. And lastly, and not optional, but you absolutely need to do this, read a professional script from the Blacklist, ideally related to your project. It doesn't have to be from Blacklist, it can be from anywhere, but you want to read a high-quality professional feature script from beginning to end and be ready to just answer, what did I read, what did I like, notice, and learn? I will ask every class, what have we read this week? You must be reading to write features. Okay, if you still need to enroll, you can get the course on its own at scriptcamp.net/classes. Otherwise, you can start your membership at scriptcamp.net's main page and sign up here for unlimited membership or yearly subscription for 40% off. Okay, since I don't see any other questions or see any other loglines I haven't gotten to, we will wrap things up there for today. I'll leave you with that list of all the upcoming classes and events. Like tomorrow, for instance, where we have romance, writing the romance novel on WordCamp, our novel server, and then I'm teaching writing adaptations on that same novel server April 14th, so that's Sunday from 12 to 2. Oh, sorry, Sunday from 10 to noon, not 12 to 2. 12 to 2 is the romance class time. New classes in TV Pilot Bootcamp, April 14th. Novel Bootcamp, April 20th. Intro to Video Editing, also on April 20th on Film Camp. Plenty of stuff to try out and join. We've got events happening almost every single day of the week, so we're so glad that you guys have joined us for this new bootcamp session, and we'll look forward to seeing you in your next events. So have a great rest of your nights.